Alrighty, we are live now. Welcome everyone to our COVID-19 virtual town hall for the Tri-Valley area. Now I would like to introduce our host and moderator, Assemblymember Rebecca Bauer-Kahan.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us tonight for this virtual town hall for Tri-Valley residents. Before we get started, and we have a lot of amazing people with us tonight to help provide you with the most accurate and local information, I want to take a moment to thank all of you, our community. I know that social distancing and what we have asked of you has not been easy, and it's brought in a lot of interruptions. As many of you know, I'm a mom of 3 young children, so I'm experiencing a lot myself. So I understand exactly what you're going through. But I am so incredibly proud of this community and grateful for what we've done. We've stayed committed to flattening the curve, and it is working. And we need to be so grateful for that, and grateful to our county for leading us in the efforts that have allowed our hospital resources to be able to maintain care for everyone who needs it. And it is through the work you are doing by staying home that we are able to do that. So thank you all for all you are doing to help us, and we are here to serve you as well. I want to thank all of our frontline workers that are going to work every day to provide essential services and make our community continue to work. And we have many of those people here on the line tonight, so thank all of you and everyone listening. I want to thank our local elected officials in the Tri-Valley who work day in and day out to keep our cities running, to keep us safe, and ensure that our cities continue to operate. We are all here to support you, so you should reach out to any of us if you have questions. You can email me at my office or call anytime you have concerns. Our phones are being answered, and we are here to help you. So with that, I'm going to introduce our wonderful guests. First, I want to introduce my partner in the legislature, our state senator, Senator Steve Glazer, and I want to give him the opportunity to provide some opening remarks. Welcome, Senator.
Thank you, Assemblywoman, and thank you, your great team and your great partnership in the legislature. I want to just say it's great to have these opportunities to get us together. At least it's not in person, but it's the next best thing, I guess, to see and hear everybody. But I do want to join in what the Assemblywoman said in commending the leadership in the Tri-Valley, the engagement, the communication, the coordination, the cooperation that is being exhibited there. I know in a difficult situation, it's making our situation as well as it can be. So to all the mayors and council members, city staff, and certainly our wonderful healthcare providers and essential workers who are out there putting themselves at risk to help us, I want to just say thank you, and I look forward to the conversations and the questions.
Thank you, Senator. And again, you can reach out to either the Senator's office or my office if you have any questions. If we're not the right person to answer your question, we know where to send you, so we are here to help. So during the town hall, we're going to hear from quite a few experts in the area. We have Colleen Chawla from the Alameda County Healthcare Services, who can talk about the county's efforts to flatten the curve and some of the orders that you are abiding by. We have our city managers from all 3 Tri-Valley cities. Thank you all for joining us. We have Linda Smith, the Dublin City Manager, Nelson Fialho from Pleasanton, and Mark Roberts from Livermore. We'll hear from each of them about their local city efforts to keep you safe and keep your essential services running. We have Michelle Smith McDonald from the Alameda County Office of Education. So those of you that are like me, dealing with distance learning and schools, she'll be able to answer some questions on that. And we have Mallory DeLaura, who's District Director for Congressman Eric Swalwell, who will be here to provide some advice about federal matters as well. So we did get questions before the call, and we're trying to get to as many of those as possible. If you did not get to send in your question or something comes up throughout the town hall, you can use the Q&A function on Zoom if you're on the Zoom. Otherwise, you can email me at assemblymember.bauer-kahan@assembly.ca.gov. And if you didn't get that, it was in the email you got, so you can look there. But we will try to get as many questions answered as possible. And if we don't get to you, we will try to get to you after the call. So first, I'm going to turn it over to Colleen Chawla, Director of Alameda County Healthcare Services, to discuss the county health response. And I think Colleen is on the line. Colleen, you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Can you talk a little bit about what's happening in Alameda County and the trends we're seeing with COVID-19 in terms of cases?
Certainly. Currently, our case count is 968 cases in the Alameda County local health jurisdiction and 38 deaths. Berkeley has a separate health department, so their case counts separately through their health department. They have 39 cases with 1 death, so a total within the county borders of 1,007 cases and 39 deaths in our county. So the Alameda County Healthcare Services Agency is now in its 13th week of emergency activation for this pandemic. And our staff are working around the clock on case and contact investigations, pandemic mitigation strategies, and surge planning, and providing guidance for our community partners. Our local health department, as I said, has been activated since January, working on identifying COVID-19 cases in our county, isolating people who are sick from spreading disease to other people, interviewing positive cases and their close contacts, and quarantining people at risk for developing disease. We've been monitoring the data for trends and predictions, as you indicated, Assembly Member. And this past week, we launched our data dashboard, which includes now city-level data as well as race and ethnicity data. I want to just point out some limitations to the interpretation of that data. What the data on our dashboard shows, and it's available on our public health website as at acphd.org, which is Alameda County Public Health Department.org. Some of the limitations to the data are it really represents where testing has occurred and who has tested positive. So because we know it's COVID-19 is spread in the community, it is not necessarily a picture of what's the prevalence of diseases in our county, but rather where the testing has occurred. So
yeah. And testing is actually one of the questions we got. It continues to be something that the state has not gotten to where we want to be on testing, and I know it's true of our counties as well. Can you talk a little bit about testing and where we are and where we're hoping to get in the near future?
Certainly. So testing continues to be best provided by your own healthcare provider, because that's the person that knows you and the person who has access to all of your records and can continue to be with you through follow-up if a person tests positive. So testing is available through your healthcare provider for symptomatic individuals. But there's also testing sites that have come up online throughout our county by other healthcare and other first responder partners. So for example, there's a testing site in Hayward by Hayward Fire, and in Fremont by Fremont Fire. I know Oakland has also set up testing sites. We are continuing to look at standing up additional testing sites through the county. Our public health lab in the county does conduct testing, but we prioritize our testing resources for high risk contacts for the individuals that we're doing case contacts for.
Got it. And I know you and I, the county and my office, and I know the senator's office has been involved in working closely with Stanford Valley Care, which has been incredible in trying to increase access to testing in the Tri-Valley, and we'll continue to work on that for all of our constituents there to make sure that we have good testing capability and those who need it can get it. Can you talk a little bit about the county shelter-in-place orders and what you want people to know about that and what you're doing to prepare for a potential surge?
Certainly. So we're in our second shelter-in-place order, and these shelter-in-place orders were implemented by our county health officer. Every county has a top public health physician called a county health officer, and that person has specific authority conferred on them by the state of California. And 7 health officers representing 6 counties in our region have aligned their health officer orders to shelter in place. And we're in our second order that expires on May 3rd. And under that order, it requires everybody to stay at home unless they need to leave their home for any essential reason. And it lists out what essential businesses are and essential reasons are to leave home. And that order, combined with the guidance that was recently provided around covering your face, are 2 ways that we can help to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in our community. So making sure that we're reducing any unnecessary exposure by staying home, and then covering our face when we do have to go out for any essential reason, not so much so that you don't become infected by other people, but so that if you are infected with COVID-19, that you are not infectious to other people. So that we can together help flatten the curve.
Got it. And Colleen, can you talk a little bit about the best practices for masking? I know there's been some confusion about what masks people should wear. and how should they wear them when they're out walking, only when they're going to the grocery store? Sort of what are the best practices there?
So the health officer guidance was around face coverings, because masks we want to preserve medical grade masks for our healthcare providers. So there had been a shortage of masks early on, and they're not all readily available. And because people on the front lines who are first responders and healthcare professionals are in contact with people who are known positive, we want to make sure that those resources are available and remain available for them. For the rest of us who are not interacting on a daily basis with people who are known positive for COVID-19, any kind of face covering will work. A bandana, a cloth mask, a washable mask, a t-shirt that's converted into a mask, anything that covers your nose and mouth will work.
Got it. So one of the things the governor announced this week was sort of a set of criteria that he's working on with both Oregon and Nevada to get California businesses up and running and to get us back out into our lives. Can you share if the county is working on any of that? David wrote in to ask sort of what will we need to go back to work?
Yes, so I know that the governor issued a 6-point plan on going back to work. It starts with increased testing and isolation, so that people can know who is positive, and we can identify those individuals and get them the treatment and care that they need. It also includes focusing on vulnerable populations, people who are at most risk to be severely ill if they become infected with coronavirus. So that's people who are living in congregate settings, for example, like skilled nursing facilities or in homeless shelters, or people who are over age 65 or have underlying health conditions. The third element is monitoring health and hospital system surge capacity and making sure that we know where we are in relation to our overall capacity at any time. I mentioned therapeutics, but to make sure that there are treatments to help care for people when they get sick. Also, returning to the economy requires ensuring physical distancing in businesses and schools and childcare facilities. So making sure that the infrastructure can accommodate the physical distancing requirements that help keep us safe. And then the last element was implementing an early warning system to determine when to reinstitute certain measures, such as stay-at-home orders if necessary. So if we relax stay-at-home orders, we want to make sure that we know that if for some reason those stop working, those relaxation measures stop working, that we can return to more stringent measures if we need to in order to preserve our healthcare supply.
Thank you, Colleen. We'll have to ask when we get to Michelle Smith McDonald's, when I heard that kids are only going to get back to school when they can distance, and it sounds like my kids are never going to go back to school. So that's coming at you, Michelle. Thank you so much, Colleen, for all those questions, for all that information. It was super informative, and we're very grateful to you at the county for everything you've done. I think there's been a lot of talk about California leading the way in this country and flattening the curve, but it really was the Bay Area counties coming together, working collaboratively in getting the Bay Area to shelter in place before the state did it, that has really led us to where we are today. So I do want to express my gratitude to you and to the Office of Public Health for your incredible work in that. So thank you. I really
appreciate that. And if I could just say that I agree with what your initial comments, that we are doing a great job already at sheltering in place. Our community is really showing tremendous compliance and spirit coming together, and it's working. And what we see is that our curve is flattening. And if we keep it up, and I know it's hard, but if we keep it up and we stay at home and we wash our hands frequently and we cover our face when we go out and we maintain 6-foot distance between us and others, we can really make sure that this disease has minimal impact on our community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Colleen. Well, we'll keep listening to you, and you've kept us safe so far, and I know you will continue to. So thank you. So now we're going to turn it over to the cities, and we're going to hear a little bit about what they are doing and how they are supporting our everyday lives, because they really are the people who make our grocery stores continue to operate and our streets work. So first, we're going to turn to City Manager of Dublin, Linda Smith. Linda, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Of course.
We're happy.
Can you share a little bit about Dublin's response to COVID-19?
Sure. So we, like many other cities, have declared a local emergency. This allows us to do a variety of things as city managers and working with our councils, but mostly, free up for us the resources to spend money on things that need to be procured in the event of an emergency. We've also activated our Emergency Operations Center. Our logistics team is working closely with the nonprofit community to determine what the needs are. Also working with hotels who are thinking about responding to the county's recent call for hotel rooms. And they're also coordinating the collection of donations. We have a very generous community who's really trying to step forward and do good things, and that needs to be coordinated. And so we are using our logistics team to help coordinate the donation of masks and other supplies that might need to be donated to other nonprofits or to hospitals or to our first responders. In terms of our operations, we've closed all of our city facilities with the exception of Dublin Police Services, and there will be restrictions for people entering that building. One person at a time can go into Dublin Police Services and talk with any officer about any issues. We're doing a lot relative to supporting senior meals in our community. We've been a partner with Open Heart Kitchen for many years and providing lunches at our senior center, knowing that a lot of those volunteers are probably in a more vulnerable population. Our staff stepped forward and is now preparing those meals on behalf of Open Heart Kitchen and making sure that those meals get distributed to seniors. So prior to the pandemic, we were distributing, somewhere around 35 meals a day with Open Heart Kitchen preparing them. Now we're over 70 meals. Seniors are really taking advantage of the opportunity to have prepared meals made for them daily. So that's over at the Dublin Senior Center. It's a drive-up facility. So you drive up and we will provide the meal to you and you can take it home. So we're really proud of that effort. We're also having our staff assist Meals on Wheels in delivering meals to vulnerable seniors, and that work continues today. Dublin Police Services has been working closely on the enforcement matters of the shelter in place. We have provided notices to businesses when we believe that they fall outside of the shelter in place order, and we continue to monitor those activities. It's an ongoing effort as businesses are really trying to figure out how to comply with the order and have a lot of questions. So we spend a considerable amount of time here at City Hall, the skeletal staff that we have here in the building, trying to answer questions from the business community and from residents. Consistent with the order, we've of course made sure all of our park facilities are closed. And when I say park facilities, our courts, our playground equipment, all of those facilities have been closed and cordoned off. And we continue to pay attention to that. And we, if the community makes requests to us about something going on, we go check it out. All of our full-time staff, with the exception of a few of us, are working home, teleworking like many other people. And we've tried to do some things to kind of encourage our community to stay engaged. So we want our businesses to continue to get service, particularly our restaurants. And so we've launched a campaign called #DublinEats to make sure that our residents know to support our local businesses. We've also developed what we're calling our virtual recreation center so that our families can go there and find different ways to engage in parks and community services. So whether it's most recently, we did some things with the Easter Bunny on the website, and but you can take tours of museums, video tours of museums. So we have sort of an all-in-one location for the community to use. We are looking at how we're going to have to reprogram, much to what Colleen talked about. We have to do things differently likely this summer. Our summer programs are our bread and butter in our community. We want to make sure that we structure them in conjunction with what the orders are at that time, and we're working on some plans right now to make sure we can continue to serve the community throughout the summer. I just want to make one final comment on the generosity of our respective communities, and I know Nelson and Mark probably feel the same way about it, but their efforts to raise funds for our hospital workers, the diaper drive that just recently occurred where 28,000 diapers were raised for Hively for low-income families, making masks for our healthcare workers and our essential workers. It's just truly inspiring to see what these three communities have been doing together.
I couldn't agree more, Linda. It's been You know, our community is amazing and it's always been a privilege to represent us, but in this time we have seen people step up in a way that is just amazing. We've been doing a series on my social media of heroes of the day, and we have so many. And yeah, just yesterday we got to acknowledge someone from Open Heart Kitchen who's serving meals in the Tri-Valley. And you know, I'm so grateful because we knew when we sheltered in place that it was only going to work if we all came together and checked on our neighbors and took care of our neighbors. And there's no question that our community is doing that. So it's great to hear. Can you talk a little bit about resources for businesses specifically? I know our small businesses are really struggling. And, you know, does the city have specific resources for them?
So the city has been looking into a couple of activities. Obviously, we have an economic development team, and they've been in contact, pretty close contact with many of our businesses and trying to help them navigate the different programs that the federal government has laid out. So they're working in conjunction with the Small Business Development Center and even our SBA rep to connect these businesses and get them filling out the right forms and paperwork. Just had a call today about a business that needed to renew their business license because you can't apply for one of the programs of the federal government unless you have your business license. So we're sort of rushing business licenses that need to be renewed to make sure that those businesses can qualify. We're going to be talking to the city council about some other loan programs that we might be able to move forward. I know some of our other neighbors have done that already. We've done some work around transit occupancy tax, so our hoteliers can defer some of their payments, so they don't have to make their payments at the end of every month that they typically do. Will allow them to defer them for a few months so that they can keep some cash, because they've been obviously disproportionately hit by this as well, as they don't have any business travelers or any travelers staying in their hotels. So we're constantly coordinating with hotels. The Dublin Eats is our effort to help with the restaurants, and we're continuing to work one-on-one with those businesses that need some support in navigating this new environment with the new federal programs.
Yeah, thank you. I know that our office has been fielding those calls, but I'm glad to have Mallory on the line because I know that the Congressman's office is definitely here to support folks with those loans too. So the more we can do to help people. I just got to talk to a nonprofit today who had got one of those SBA loans, and it's really a game changer for them. So the more people we can help get those, I think the better. So thank you for that. And what would you say the best way, if somebody wanted to lend a hand, you talked about the generosity of our community. I think there are also people out there who don't know what the best way to do it is. So what one resource would you point people to get information on how to help?
Oh gosh, generally, I don't know if there's one place. That's the unfortunate thing. There's just so many places that are trying to do great things. I would just direct everybody, if you're in Dublin and you have questions about who to get in contact with, call the City Hall offices, because we do have a live person here during working hours. It's 833-6650, and we will try and direct you based on what your interest is in terms of what you'd like to do to support the community. But we'll be here and answer the phone.
Perfect. Thank you. And it is something for people to remember. Often people call my office and they get surprised when we answer. But we are essential offices, and we are open here to support you. So it's a good reminder. So now I'm going to turn it over to the City of Livermore, Mark Roberts, who is the city manager there. Thank you so much for joining us, Mark.
Well, thank you for inviting me. We're very happy to be here tonight.
So can you give us a little bit of what Livermore is doing as it relates to the COVID response?
Sure. Well, first of all, just like Linda and Nelson, I want to assure you that our city folks are still here to help out. Our offices, while not open to the public and walk-in, are still completing all the essential tasks. So that means, of course, that our police department, our fire department are out there 24/7 doing their job. If you need to contact their offices, they do have folks available to answer the phones during business hours. If you need to renew a license or pay a bill, the best way to do that is on our website. But again, we do have people working there every day during business hours and can help you over the phone to navigate whatever you need to get done. If you've got something that you have an essential repair where you need to replace a water heater or get something done on an emergency basis, our Permit Center is open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. To help you with those sorts of projects. So the first thing I sort of want to make sure that everybody knows is even though technically the doors aren't open for you to walk in, all the services that we have are available. Things like our library services have morphed since our library is not open to the public. Our electronic offerings have expanded. We're doing virtual story time and other activities. So our story time items hit the website on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Our crafts and activities for children are posted on Wednesdays. Content for teens is posted on Fridays. So all of the things that you've looked to our library to do as far as activities and other fun things are still there. Obviously, our public works, water resources, maintenance staff, all those folks continue to perform the essential duties that we rely on. We've had 3 virtual special city council meetings. Those you can tune into on Zoom or on YouTube. And we're going to have on the 27th of April, our first regular city council meeting that will be all virtual. So that'll be all of the regular governmental activities that we're normally doing at a council meeting will be back. It's kind of actually a long agenda since it's been a little while since we've had a regular meeting. So we're looking forward to interacting with the community that way and giving our elected officials an ability to interact with folks during a council meeting. Our council's been reaching out to the community with a number of letters to the community. A newsletter will be in our inboxes, or actually our literal mailboxes, later this week or early next week. And we've done a video like some of the other Tri-Valley communities has as well. So communicating essentially what's going on in the community and making sure that people have the information they need. If I had sort of one theme to push out to the community is there's an enormous amount of information on our website. Everything from links to trusted federal and state sources for information, links to the health department on what you should be doing and not doing. A lot of the things that we covered earlier in the meeting have been put out in writing by the health department here in Alameda County, and we've posted links to that so you can go right there and figure out everything from what's good information to what the latest recommendations are on that. So that's just a sort of a quick snapshot of our governmental operations, what we're doing with our meetings, and some of the information that we have available to folks.
Perfect, thank you. I think that's great advice because I think many of us are working really hard to keep our website up to date so that people can continue to access it. But I don't know that people always expect that they're going to get today's information on our websites, but I think everyone on the call is working really hard to make sure our websites have the most up-to-date information so you can use them as a resource. And I do have to say, I'm going to check out your library resources. I need more crafts and stories for my children. So I learned something. Can you talk a little bit about the resources for businesses in Livermore?
Yeah, absolutely. A couple things. Linda talked about the generosity here in the Tri-Valley, and it's absolutely true in Livermore as well. There's a couple of new small business websites that have been stood up, livermoretogether.com and livermoreupdates.com. They list businesses that are open for business. They open and what they're actually doing. So if they're a restaurant, what are their takeout hours? If they are an essential business, when are they open? What are they doing? They list businesses that might have changed their format. We've had a few restaurants that have become essentially stop-by grocery stores. So our First Street Ale House became First Street Grocery, where you can get essentially items you can order on their website. They bring it right out to your car. Examples of that throughout our community are on those websites. If those are hard to remember, our Livermore Downtown Incorporated website and our Chamber of Commerce website tie directly to those as to the city's website. So those are great places where you can go and look at, if you are a small business, about information, availability of programs, things like that. And if you're a member of the community and you want to support our small businesses, it gives you a very good index of who's open, what's going on, what things are available. Great things to think about if you're thinking about supporting our local businesses are taking advantage of takeout services for our restaurants if you normally go and dine in, or maybe even buying a gift card from a restaurant. That really helps with short-term cash flow for some of our smallest business owners. And that's a promise that will be fulfilled later in the year. And that's a tremendous amount of faith that the community is investing in our small business community. And it's really helping folks to get through. So those are just a couple of things that the community can do, and that a couple of resources that we have for our small businesses. Our economic development staff, the team there, is combing through the federal and state legislation. And while that might seem super simple to figure out exactly what program is best for you, our website gives a lot of information on where to go, what some of the basics of the programs are. Again, we do have folks who are in the office virtually. So if you ring the office number, we'll pick up. Almost all those people are working remotely, but we do have live staff available during the day to help with some of those and point you in the right direction to help you out, because some of those programs are not immediately obvious to folks who've never dealt with government before.
And I think it's an important point you make. We did a little webinar with the SBDC, the Small Business Development Corporation, and one of the things they talked about that I learned was that you can apply for both the federal loans and how to do that and how to use them so you're maximizing the resources, and it's not always straightforward. And so I think it's an important point for businesses to reach out to government officials to really get advice about how to utilize the resources that are available in the best way. So we have that webinar on our website, but I know you can also reach out to the Congressman's office or the city to get that information as well. But thank you for that. And one of the things you pointed out was that so many of our restaurants have pivoted, right? I know a lot of the restaurants I usually patronize are now doing family meals, which is so ideal for me. So, different ways that they've really changed the way they operate to meet our needs today. And, it's entrepreneurship at its best, but hopefully people will continue to support them. So thank you for that. And then, you also spoke about the generosity of spirit that I think all of us are seeing in such a beautiful way. So what resource would you give people to figure out how to help? Maybe I won't limit you to one because poor Linda.
Well, I'm going to cheat like I should on this one, which is actually, if you go to our website, there's a section under the COVID-19 section of our website that says how to help. And that lists a few of our community partners. Open Heart Kitchen is providing meals to our neighbors. Spectrum Meals on Wheels is actually delivering those. Of course, Tri-Valley Haven continues to provide their services as a shelter. And then if you just happen to be lucky enough to have medical equipment, everything from masks to shields to gowns or anything else, even Stanford Valley Care, their Livermore campus, is taking donations of anything related to that. And that's just a couple that are listed on our website. So if it is time that you've got, a number of our organizations need people to replace volunteers. A lot of cases, they were seniors, and so they're no longer available. Like Dublin, Livermore has a number of our city staff helping out our partners, taking the roles that volunteers would have taken during normal times. So if you do have time and you are healthy and you can help, volunteering with a number of those organizations, either providing meals, delivering meals, providing services to our unhoused neighbors, all of those are things that are possible. If you'd like to support things financially, all of those various organizations have websites where you can donate online. Never been easier to help with that. So we have quite a list of those resources on our website, so people can sort of read down, see what the organization does, and support whatever group they think would align best with their giving interests.
I love that. I actually just saw today that Tri-Valley Haven was looking for soaps and shampoos, and it gave me an excuse to clean out my cabinet with all those little hotel soaps, and I'm going to go drop them off because
Absolutely.
You do, right? So thank you so much for that and everything you're doing. We did get a question, and I can open this up to all three of you, but I'll ask you first about parks. One of the things that the shelter-in-place order does allow is for people to go out and exercise and enjoy the fresh air, which is really important for all of our mental health. But most of our parks are closed, and East Bay Regional Parks has closed many of their parking lots and tried to keep people from congregating. Any advice on how to get outside?
So in Livermore, of course, our parks are provided by the Livermore Area Recreation and Park District. So different than Livermore, Dublin and Pleasanton, in Livermore, our parks are delivered through a separate agency. But we're cooperating very, very closely with that. And so you're right, the facilities part of the park, the playground, the restrooms, the areas where people would congregate, those areas are closed. But all of our neighborhood parks, the field areas, remain open. So while tennis courts, basketball courts, things like that are closed because you sort of can't play a game of basketball without getting too close, the fields are open. So if you and your son or daughter or somebody living with you wants to go out and take a walk through the park, wants to toss a Frisbee with somebody in your household, that's permitted and that's absolutely encouraged. I know what I do every evening is I take a walk around my neighborhood, which has a lot fewer cars driving around it than normal. So that's a really nice way to get out and exercise. Because I find, for a lot of us who are either, in our house all day, not being able to work, or in our house all day working the entire time, getting outside and doing some recreation is super important. If you've got any questions in Livermore about what facilities are open or closed, just give LARPD a call or take a look at their website. But generally, most of their open areas and fields are open at this point.
Great. Thank you for that. Okay, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate all that and everything you're doing for the residents in Livermore, as always, but especially during these hard times. And now we're going to turn it over to Nelson from Fialho from the City of Pleasanton, City Manager. Welcome, Nelson. Thanks for joining us.
Hi there. Thank you for having us.
Of course. So can you tell us a little bit about what's happening in Pleasanton as it relates to the COVID-19 response?
Sure. I will say that many of the programs and services that are occurring in Dublin and Livermore are also being duplicated here in Pleasanton. And I will echo what Linda and Mark has said, which is there's a great partnership out here of professionalism and support in the public service arena. And we communicate every day almost about the needs of our cities, and we're trying to do the best that we can to support our communities. Here in Pleasanton, from the start, we prioritized essentially 4 goals for our community. Number 1 is public safety and making sure that we have the necessary resources to support our police department and our fire department in this critical time. Number 2 is we are placing extra emphasis on the health and welfare of our community, the public especially, but also our city employees. What does that mean? For those who remain, including our first responders, ensuring that we're undergoing well checks prior to shift as well as prior to going home to ensure that they're okay and feeling well, and if not, that we have the proper protocols in place to ensure that they get the necessary medical support. And for the community, we've emphasized a lot of support for our senior population. And I can talk about that in a moment. Number 3 is preservation of our existing assets, our infrastructure that needs to be maintained. We operate a water utility here in Pleasanton, and we have a very large park system. So while the park system is being maintained at a very low standard, it's just enough to make sure that we don't lose the asset as the shelter in place order is prolonged. Basic maintenance to ensure that the community can still use it. And then of course, water and sewer operations are critical. We, through our public information activities, are trying to become the primary source of communication for the community. So that's priority number 4. If you go to the internet and type in Pleasanton, you'll be immediately redirected to our COVID page, which has helpful, frequently asked questions and answers, community newsletters that have been issued weekly, all of the necessary orders for the community to get educated on if they're interested, and then a dashboard of COVID cases, not only in the county, but what's happening here in Pleasanton. Of course, all of that links directly to the County of Alameda to ensure accuracy. Programmatically, maybe some things that haven't been touched on yet. We have been very aggressive at sheltering our homeless in our community. Yes, Pleasanton does have a homeless population. And for those that have been identified as fragile, chronically unsheltered, and ill, we have placed them in a local hotel in Pleasanton, and then working with our nonprofits are checking on those individuals daily. We have gotten clearance recently by the state to run a child care program for our health care workers. We operate a recreation child care program here in Pleasanton at what's known as fondly Gingerbread Preschool, but it's a rec program, and typically during normal times, we just have folks there, kids, for a couple of hours. But when you operate an all-day childcare program, you need a special license and you need clearance from the state. We received that clearance, as did Pleasanton Unified School District. So together, we have 3 locations in our community where we are able to accommodate up to 10 children at each site for healthcare workers. And that rolled out this week, and all 3 sites are full. So that's a great service and something that we welcome doing in this particular situation. Mark?
Thank you for that. I mean, I think it shows the way in which we're stepping up, right? I mean, Stanford Valley Care has been really amazing in responding to this, and the city's stepping back and supporting them with childcare, I think and other essential workers is really incredible. So.
Yeah, and Mark and Linda and I have also, I'm sure collectively, I can speak for myself, placed many orders on behalf of healthcare workers and our local hospital for things such as N95 masks, gowns, face shields, nasal swabs, and even transport media vials to place those swabs in so that they can be appropriately tested at the labs. That's significant because here in Pleasanton and in the broader Valley, we've got a really close relationship with Valley Care Hospital, Stanford Valley Care. And we talk to them daily to understand the metrics of their response and bed availability and what they have access to serve the Tri-Valley region. Not only have we collectively been supporting them with their mobile test site currently being run from that facility. It's a narrow test site in the sense that it only operates from 1 to 5 Monday through Friday, but they are testing individuals who show up with a medical directive from a doctor. So you have to be symptomatic and you need to have that order. They are providing that service not only to patients of Valley Care, but to any doctor or healthcare facility that orders it. So that extends to Kaiser and Sutter Health and anybody who's providing medical support in the region. So that's a great service that they have stood up. We are trying very hard to expand that service here in East County, and we think we will be able to do that in the next 5 to 7 days. It'll be an East County public test site, mobile test site, that will be run by medical clinicians and doctors with logistical support being provided by the cities of Livermore, Dublin, and Pleasanton. We hope to host that at the Alameda County Fairgrounds. The trouble with standing that facility up has been access to test swabs. We have been in discussions with local businesses that manufacture that here in the region, but recently have been informed that we have access now to enough testing to stand up that facility for approximately 4 weeks. So the details will be worked on that over the coming days, and we hope that we have more detail to report out as a region by the end of next week, and how and where and to what degree that'll be operated.
That's great news. That's a huge step forward in testing in the region. So thank you for your all of you for your incredible work on that. I know it took a lot of work with the Sheriff's Office and the county and others to get that activated. So I really appreciate it.
Just a final thing to echo, while our employees are here and available to support our community, it is a skeleton staff that is providing all of the essential services. We have a number of employees telecommuting to help augment those activities. But we have a number of individuals reporting to nonprofits, preparing meals, working at the food bank, placing boxes of food into vehicles to support the community. And even our senior center is running a drive-through meal program. Yesterday we served 90 seniors. That number has been growing by about 25 people a day. So there's a growing need out there. And this is free and discounted food for our senior population. And to help support that activity for those who are homebound, we run a paratransit program, and we have lifted the age restriction and made those buses available to individuals who need to get to grocery stores and medical appointments. And we've expanded the service to locations that we don't normally service during non-pandemic times. So we welcome the challenge, and we're all in this together, and we're just trying to be as creative as we can to support our community.
Yeah, thank you. I was just on the phone with the Alameda County Food Bank yesterday that was talking about the concern they have about bringing volunteers in and the, changing those volunteers daily and the risk that comes with that. And they absolutely applauded all the cities for providing staff to support them so they don't have to elevate that risk. So I know that's true of all 3 cities. So thank you all for really meeting this challenge. I mean, we are seeing an increased need when it comes to food support and other support, and we're absolutely stepping up. So thank you, thank you, thank you on behalf of everyone I get to represent in the area. And now Michelle Smith-McDonald gets to tell me if my kids are ever gonna go back to school. That's not really what we're talking about, but kind of. So Michelle, welcome. Michelle is with the Alameda County Office of Education. And thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. I hope to give you something to be helpful about.
I mean, distance learning. I was joking with someone the other day that I am, a mother, a legislator, and now a co-teacher. So, why not add one more thing to my plate? But, we got this, right? So last week, Alameda and the 5 other Bay Area counties announced that distance learning will be extended through the end of the school year. Governor Newsom then gave me fear that it will be into next year as well. But can you share some information about that decision and sort of what you see for the future?
Yeah. So the state superintendent and the governor had both the previous week put out, had urged schools to consider this plan where students wouldn't return to the classrooms for the remainder of the year, but would start to engage in distance and online learning. And then we've been trying, the county offices of education in the Bay Area, not unlike the county health officers, have been trying to do regional decision making. And so everybody kind of came together and came to this place together where we sort of were bowing to the reality that we are under a shelter-in-place order, that putting school back together in a way that accounts for all of the social distancing, and that was going to be a huge lift. This is obviously all around an unprecedented time, but shutting down the school system statewide for this length of time is not something that any of us, obviously in education, have ever had to try and move through. So where we've landed is that schools have moved to the distance learning model, and that looks different in different school districts, but it's giving some space and some time for districts to plan, for this model and how to roll it out, and then also for planning into what we anticipate probably will be some alterations to the start of the school year. And I don't mean that from a scheduling perspective, but just bowing to the reality that there may be social distancing measures that we're going to start to put in place as we start a new school year and account for those. And people have a little time and space to plan those now in a way that they weren't going to have if we were trying to get school up and running again in a couple of weeks for only a few more weeks.
So my children will go back to school eventually.
Yes, they will. But it's been a busy, we've got at Alameda County Office of Education, we're working with county partners and with our districts on meal distribution, childcare and early education, curriculum and resources for distance learning. We've been working with them on everything from graduation requirements and grading policies to technology distribution. And we've been trying to connect folks as well to the state and federal programs and the funding sources that seem to be coming out daily in order to support our school system.
And I want to touch on one thing you just talked about, which is food services.
Yes.
So one of the things that the state has done is changed. Usually you have to qualify to get a free reduced lunch, and we have now loosened those requirements so that there are no questions asked.
Right.
You need to feed your child, you show up and we will feed your child. Yes. And can you talk more about that? Because I think people don't fully understand that. And if kids are hungry, we want them fed.
Yeah, most of the sites are not, they're not checking IDs, they're not checking people are coming to get meals. Districts have changed schedules. Some of them are doing daily meals, some of them are doing multiple days worth of meals in one distribution. They also relaxed the requirement that says that the student themselves has to show up to collect the meals. So adults have been able to go and collect the meals on behalf of children, which is reducing the congregation of folks a little bit. I can give you some stats. So I know we have 62 school district meal distribution sites in the county and 10 in the Tri-Valley. Livermore has distributed nearly 47,000 meals since we started through today. Dublin Unified is distributing about 500 meals a day and about 10,000 meals so far. Pleasanton is distributing about 6,000 meals a week. We're working closely with Alameda County Community Food Bank that is helping to support those efforts. And we've got a lot of essential workers out there who are doing critical work to make sure that our kids and our families are being fed.
Yeah, and I just learned that the food bank also at many of the school sites in the Tri-Valley now, the Alameda County Food Bank is providing with bags to go for additional food support as well, which is a huge deal. And I want to thank the schools for partnering with them to make sure that people have a one-stop shop to get the food support they need right now.
There are a lot of partnerships happening, and schools are a hub in our communities. And so there's an opportunity, I think, for our schools to be central points of service delivery. And I think a lot of that is happening.
That's awesome. Any advice for parents like me who are trying to achieve distance learning?
Well, I think managing expectations is great. I think that there are resources out there, and I think there are more resources all the time. We have a page on our website at acoe.org/distance learning, which has got grade level resources. Your district websites have resources for you as a parent to be able to dive into those. And then just a little patience and giving yourself a break. This is really, really hard. We have heard from so many parents that, people are working all day. They've only got 1 or 2 devices in their house, if that, and sharing those devices and trying to I have teacher friends who are working really, really hard trying to get out perhaps paper packets or doing really simple lessons online. But I think it looks very different, not only from district to district, but grade to grade and classroom to classroom. And I think everybody's just doing the best they can in a situation that none of us have ever been in before. But I know, the technology gap is another thing that we've been working really hard with our districts on. So Livermore has distributed like 2,200 Chromebooks, and I know they have demand for more. One has done 950 with 50 hotspots, and they've got more demand in another few weeks before they will have more hotspots available. Pleasanton's done over 1,200 devices. Like, we're really trying to move technology into the hands of students and families to make some of this distance learning really work.
Yes, I want to thank you for that, because as much as I joke about how challenging this is, the teachers have done an incredible job in a short period of time to completely shift the way they're providing education to our students, and I get to see it firsthand. And to your point, that looks really different for my kindergartner than my 4th grader. But we're doing the best we can, and at the end of the day, the school system has prioritized keeping our kids and our families safe, and that's the right call. So thank you for that, and it's clearly working, as I said earlier. So
well, and the last thing I would say is we're heading into the part of the year where I think it's a lot of hard time for folks, graduation ceremonies that aren't going to happen, promotions, we know our seniors, this has been so costly to our class of 2020. And so to the degrees that our community can wrap around these kids that really they're not getting the closure that they deserve for the end of their high school career. We are working on virtual graduation plans and trying to provide districts templates and things. Districts, I would put a shout out there for people, video production folks and tech companies who want to help these districts out. These putting on these virtual graduations is going to come at a high cost in some instances, but really giving our kids an opportunity to have closure on their K-12 experience. It's really hard to listen to friends who have seniors and all that they're giving up in these circumstances. It's really hard.
I know, and they are an incredible group of students. We've had the privilege of working with a lot of them in my office, and they do deserve to celebrate this 13 years of incredible hard work. And we are celebrating all of you if you're listening, because we know how phenomenal you are, but it's a hard loss for sure. Thank you, Michelle. And now I have the privilege of turning it over to Mallory DeLaura, District Director for Congressman Eric Swalwell, to give a quick update from the Congressman's office. Take it away, Mallory.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'll go over some of the direct relief programs that have been enacted as a result of the CARES Act and prior legislation, where those programs stand now, because if anybody watched the news today, it's evolved quite a bit, as well as where we're going. But I first want to commend everybody on this call and all the attendees listening. It's because of you that this is at all manageable. This took a holistic approach, and it took activating government on every level in order to get resources to where it was needed most. It's highlighted, as you spoke about, Assemblywoman, it's highlighted how much our community cares about each other, but it's also highlighted some of the inequities and the disparate impact that it has in the work we still need to do. So with that, I'll go over just the top line of the direct relief programs that are available to our Tri-Valley constituents. The first is for those who have had to file for unemployment through the state. The federal government ordered that there be an additional $600 added to that check. So from what I've heard, those have begun happening. So it's an additional $600 per week for, I believe, 4 months for those that needed to go on unemployment. There are the economic stimulus checks, the direct relief checks that are available depending on your income level. And then for our small businesses, there's the EIDL, the EIDL, economic injury disaster loan, as well as the Paycheck Protection Program. So the high level, and then now I'll kind of break it down. The $600 a week should be being administered directly through the state and as a direct addition to your unemployment. So I am hearing reports that is already happening, that the state is doing, our state level partners are doing everything they can to process those applications. Of course, nobody was ever prepared for a need this large, and it is taking more time than anybody would like, but they're working very hard to get that done. The stimulus checks have gone out. I'm hearing from immediate family members that they are seeing that happen. So depending, again, it depends on your income level, and size of your family determines how much of that money you may get. So that is happening. If it hasn't happened for you yet, it could be because the ones that are going out quickly are direct deposit. So if you file your taxes and you use direct deposit or you pay your taxes electronically, then the IRS has your direct deposit information, and it should be occurring for you fairly quickly. If you are a non-filer, or you prefer to get paper checks in the past but would like to add your direct deposit information, there are links on the Congressman's website to where you can do either of those things. You'll just have to distinguish between non-filer or just adding your direct deposit information. One of the sites was having a little bit of a hitch in the giddy up yesterday. They're working on ironing that out so that process is more smooth. So hopefully that helps any of you that had questions about that. SBA, I think we saw in the first couple weeks of this crisis, all the attention was focused on CDC and FEMA, and that has quickly evolved into nearly all the focus being on the SBA and the Treasury. Similar to the state EDD program, SBA was just not prepared for a crisis at this level. I believe I heard a statistic that in all of 2019, the SBA handled somewhere between $25 and $30 billion in all of 2019, and we handed them a multi-$100 billion package and said, stand this up in a week. So that is happening. And then there's the Paycheck Protection Program, which is in cooperation with the SBA, but administered through our banks. And you may or may not have heard that both of those programs have exhausted their funds as of today. What I would like to caution is, while if you go online onto the SBA website, they say that they are not currently accepting applications because the funds have been exhausted. Our office is working to get clarity on whether or not, if you filed an application already, because many people filed weeks ago and haven't been able to get a status update. I'll tell you, we have had a lot of difficulty getting status updates on those as well, just because the SBA is directing their staff to processing claims versus responding to us. I wouldn't panic just yet. We're working to get clarity on whether or not the funds being exhausted means they've actually dispersed all the money that they have, or they've received applications totaling the amount of money that they were allotted. So don't panic just yet. If you have an application in for an EIDL or a PPP loan, there may still be an opportunity. We're still seeing the SBA moving forward with requesting documents, and the same thing with banks that are administering the PPP program. So I would say that's where we are with those. And now where we're going is that as we speak, there's conversations in Washington. The Speaker's office is speaking directly with Secretary Mnuchin in the White House, working on what comes next. We know that the relief that was provided in the third stimulus package wasn't enough. We're seeing that play out already. So with the conversation is on whether there's a need to fill, as Colleen Chawla has talked about, we need to also work on fixing the problems that have already been created, but also making it so we don't create more problems down the line. So we're hoping that in upcoming legislation packages, we can also see more testing, for example, so that we can really understand where the problem is, so we can get a handle on it and get out of this as soon as possible, so we don't have more and more businesses needing these programs to the extent that they do now. So that's where we're headed in the future. And our office is happy. We have a lot of information on our website. Our communications team works to keep that updated daily. So as soon as we hear about resource information, we try to make it available to you. If you have questions, we're always here to answer them. You can go to swalwell.house.gov, and we are happy to keep in communication with you. We are all working from home and getting through those calls as quickly as we can, and we very much appreciate the Assemblywoman giving us the opportunity to address our mutual constituents like this. We realize how hard it is, and we want to do everything we can to be available as a resource. So thank you.
Thank you, Mallory. We're lucky to have you guys as a federal partner. You're so responsive and there to help our constituents, and it is taking both the federal and the state government right now to really support the need. The need is so great. So I'm glad that we are able to work together to meet the needs of our Tri-Valley constituents. So thanks for that update, and glad to hear more is coming, because I think I was on a call with the congressman just last week where they had announced that it was over, but we knew that it wasn't going to be enough, and I know he is in Washington advocating very strongly for more resources for our constituents. So thank you to him and to you.
Of course.
So I'm going to give a little bit of a state update on what's happening at the state level. I know there's a lot of the programs that you've heard about tonight that we are administering. So as you may have heard, we appropriated $1.1 billion before we left on recess for the governor to respond to the COVID-19 crisis. And that was meant to be broadly used, and you've seen it broadly used. It is provided for PPE, for testing, for surge when it comes to hospital beds, to supporting our homeless populations. We are now providing childcare for essential workers, and we've really used it to try to support the community in every way in that real immediate COVID-19 way. We are on recess until May 4th, but our offices are open and we continue to work. Just today, the legislature started budget hearings to oversee what is happening in the spending. Those hearings are going to focus on how we're spending money right now in the COVID response, and then move into how we're going to fund and work for recovery in California. So we are also answering the calls. My whole team is remote right now, but the phones are getting answered, emails are getting responded to, so please reach out. A couple of things that I think are really important for you to know. The DMV, it's one of the calls we get often. Your license is expiring, you're a vulnerable population, you need to go take that test, and you don't want to go wait in line at the DMV. That is the right call. So the DMV has said they will not ticket people with expired license for 120 days. So if you are in that situation, do not worry. We don't want you to go to the DMV to renew your license. We want you to wait. And so you have 120 days, and depending on what happens, that may get extended. But please do not be concerned about going and taking a test at the DMV right now to renew, or going in person to do so. EDD, which you heard a lot about from Mallory, those checks are going out, as you heard. I have to say that we went from record low unemployment to need that none of us could have anticipated. And I know there was a lot of hiccups in that, but the state has remarkably, before this crisis, there was a 3-week turnaround on EDD checks, and we have been able to maintain that 3-week turnaround despite the astronomical increase in requests. So that is something that I really want to give credit to the administration in being able to surge their ability to meet that need. And they continue to work to surge. One of the things they didn't put on the priority list, they wanted to get the money into people's hands fastest. That was their first priority. We had limited call hours because we just didn't need them. We didn't have the before the crisis, and now that is changing. So there's a new call center that will be operated 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and that starts on Monday. So if you've had trouble getting hold of EDD, we understand. The state has redeployed 1,340 employees from other agencies to respond to EDD claims. That is how we are able to turn them around and maintain the volume that we are doing. And we did that from state agency to state agency, which I am really impressed by because it allowed the state budget to stay neutral and increase the capacity to EDD. So we are here to support you in those. We want to get those checks to people who need them because we know that is your lifeline. The pandemic unemployment assistance, which is in the CARES Act, so that came down from the federal government, but will be administered through EDD. That is the unemployment that is for people who are independent contractors or sole business owners, but you process that through EDD. So that has not been available. That application has not been available because the state was waiting on federal guidance, and now they are able to create that application. That application will go live on the 28th. The good news is, despite the fact that you have to wait to fill out that application, EDD has assured us that you will get that check within 48 hours. So again, a couple weeks to wait to do the application, but you'll still be within that 3-week timeline of getting the check. So please, if you are in need of those funds and you need them soon, check in on the 28th and fill that application out as soon as possible. And we're told you will see that check within 48 hours. So there are a lot of resources out there that you've heard about, and the state is working as hard as possible to get them to you because we know you have to pay your rent and feed your family, and this is how you're going to do it. So if you need assistance, please call my office. We can help with this. And I know the senator's office stands ready to do the same. So tax deadline, something we've been hearing a lot about. So your state taxes have been pushed just like your federal taxes to July 15th. Did I get that right, Mallory? I think they're the same. Yes, she's shaking her head yes. And so those you do not need to worry about until July 15th. Obviously, if you want to pay your taxes, you can, but you do not need to until July 15th. Property taxes were due on April 10th. We heard a lot about this and we understood that this was a problem for people. So the assessors were given the leeway to not fine people who paid them late if they had a COVID-19 reason. That our counties were doing. So Alameda County Assessor's Office will give you relief if you need it. So if you did not pay your property taxes because you couldn't, please reach out to the assessor's office to make sure you don't get fined for that, because you won't. We understand what people are going through, and we are doing everything we can to accommodate those that need it. That being said, over 90% of people did pay those taxes, but if you're in that 10%, please reach out to the assessor's office to ensure you don't get a fine. Like I said, my office is open. We are doing town halls like this all the time, as is the senator. One of the things we talked about tonight was distance learning. He did a great town hall that I learned a ton about on distance learning. So check out both of our websites because you can get more information on those. I have information on, like I said, on the SBA loans. I did one on food insecurity and how to get food resources or to help provide food resources if you're looking to volunteer. And I did a parenting town hall with one of my favorite parenting experts on how to parent in these challenging times. So there's a lot of resources out there, and our website provides a lot of that. So please go there for resources. And I just want to thank all of you for being here and for listening and trying to get the best information. This is hard. And one of the most important things is you get good local information. And we have such incredible local resources. And I want to just thank them all for being here. But I want to thank everyone who tuned in or will tune in, because we're going to leave it online. And thank you for your questions. We didn't get to all of them, but we will get back to you. So thank you for all those thoughtful questions. And keep an eye out for more from all of us. We will be providing more information in the weeks that come. But thank you for staying informed. It has been amazing to see the ways that this community has come together to keep each other safe and to support each other in these really trying times, albeit with social distancing and proper physical distance. So stay safe, be healthy. Thank you for tuning in, and know that all of us are here to support you in whatever way you need. Thank you, guys.